Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with investingnews.com. I'm speaking with Steve Bartrop, Managing Director of Tartana Minerals, a copper explorer, developer, and producer based in Australia. Good to have you, Steve.
Thank you, Marie-Lynn.
I guess a good starting point for our conversation is just an overview. What you're looking at or what you're seeing in the copper market right now, and where you see it progressing.
Sure. Look, the copper market is particularly exciting at the moment and certainly going forward. And I guess we've all seen the projections. For example, Wood Mackenzie looking at, the demand increasing by 75% by 2050. And it's really driven by the renewables and the transport sector. And I think, everybody's been quite surprised at the take up of electric cars and that additional copper consumption in all those cars. So you can see that additional demand continuing through over the next 20 years. And, that's led to the positioning of some of those larger companies like BHP and so forth in terms of, the various takeovers, for instance, Anglo and potentially Rio with Tech and so forth, to get well positioned in the copper market given, the expectations around demand going forward.
So, with this, current landscape, maybe this is a good time to talk about Tartana, where you see your company fitting into this, dynamic with the copper market.
Yeah, sure. Look, we've got a copper sulfate pentahydrate plant, so it's a heap leach solvent extraction crystallization process, and we provide copper sulfate pentahydrate to the Australian market, particularly the northern Australian mining industry. Overall, though, the copper pentasulfate um, the copper sulfate pentahydrate market is around 400,000 tonnes worldwide, and Australia is a portion of that, but a significant proportion is also in the not the mining sector, but the agricultural sector. So we would like to move, and we're planning on moving towards that sector in terms of supplying that sector. And of course, Australia imports a lot of its copper sulfate pentahydrate, so we can replace that importation.
That's an interesting, I guess, take on the copper market when I guess probably all your peers in the copper sector, want to get into the EV space, the electrification and those types, the green energy space, So what's the strategy, with focusing on this particular segment of the market?
Yes, look, the copper sulfate pentahydrate market is quite an exciting market, and the copper pentasulfate hydrate, sorry, copper sulfate pentahydrate market is actually priced on the copper price. So the component is 25% copper, and that's an LME priced variable for the copper sulfate pentahydrate that we sell. So I think we've got that leverage to the LME copper price, but also we've got additional resources. For example, we've got a potential large scale open pit with 45,000 tonnes of contained copper. So what we're doing is step by step or a staged approach. The copper sulfate pentahydrate production is providing us with quite a strong cash flow, as you've seen from the recent announcement. But I think ultimately we will also look at processing the primary ore that is below the pit, and that could provide production ongoing for many years to come.
So speaking of that recent announcement, you've announced the 150,000 ton shipment to your offtake partner. Could you talk a bit more about that? Tell us a bit more about the details on that.
Yeah, for sure. Look, that was an exciting milestone in terms of, and while it's not big in comparison to other copper producers, it's very lucrative because it's such a high margin copper from our perspective. Our operating costs are around that US $1.29 per pound, and we can produce copper sulfate pentahydrate and then sell it across the market, and we capture the full the full value for the copper in that product. So we don't. It's not discounted. We in fact gain a premium across on top of the price, and so if we move, as I mentioned before, towards more the agricultural industry, that premium will actually increase. So while treatment charges and refining charges are low at the moment for other copper producers, given the increased smelting capacity, particularly in China, we don't have any treatment charges and refining charges, and we don't cover the freight. So we get the full value for the copper that we produce, and it's just been such an excellent way of building the business and providing a platform for us to go forward with other copper production from different sources, such as the primary ore.
In parallel to your production plant, you're also doing exploration activities. Could you provide some updates on that side of your operation?
And sure, Marianne. We have a very large tenement portfolio in the Chillagoe region, and it's one of the, I would have to say it's one of the underexplored areas. There are large, mineral deposits that have been found over the years, but it's been one of the neglected areas in terms of exploration. So we've built and established quite a large tenure position that now that we've brought the plant back into production. So we took about 2 years to bring that plant back into production, and we tended to hold back on the exploration. We'll now start stepping up that exploration, and we've got gold resources of 415,000 ounces in a project called Mountain Maid that will now start to extend that and look for high grade zones in other areas such as Nightflower. We have high grade silver lead zinc mineralisation that we'll look at drilling that out and increasing or establishing a resource and increasing that resource as we go forward. So they're two highlights, but there are quite a few prospects. There'd certainly be more than 10 to 15 prospects where you've got potentially economic mineralisation at surface that has not experienced any follow-up drilling in the past. So it's going to keep us busy.
What can the investor community expect from the company over the next, short term?
Yeah, look, I think that investors and shareholders can have, gain comfort in the fact that we're cash positive, we're paying down a number of creditors, but the copper sulphate is a very good market. Copper prices are good at the moment, and also potentially likely to improve. So we'll direct that cash flow back towards exploration with some quite high-ranking targets that are likely to create significant value add. One of those aspects is that, while I mentioned earlier we have 45,000 tonnes of contained copper in a JORC resource in the Tartana open pit, we've designed a drilling program that will extend that to more than 100,000 tonnes through just simply drilling deeper and following the mineralisation at depth, which, there's no signs of it abating at all. So it's really just a matter of firming up that mineralisation and providing the data for resource increases.
Great. Well, thanks again, Steve, for joining me today and sharing some updates about the company.
Great. Thank you, Marie-Lynn.
And thanks. Great. And thanks, everyone, for watching. Join us again next time for another edition of CEO Insights. If you like this video, like or leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more exclusive interviews and updates.